off. Hello, my name is Brad Bodnerchuk, and welcome to the Half a Dozen Hospitality Podcast, where we discuss everything hospitality, from the food on the plate to the teams that make it happen and the community that drives this industry forward. On this podcast, we sit down and chat with some exciting, inspiring, and innovative minds that make up one of the most dynamic industries that there is today. And today, I have the pleasure of being joined by none other than Alex Black. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
My absolute pleasure. And I wasn't going to say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. I want to thank you for having a super easy name to pronounce. I've had a couple guests on the last few weeks, and they've been, I use the word daunting a lot, but they were super daunting names. And as I'm going through the intro, I'm like, I'm going to mess it up. But with yours, I felt super comfortable. So.
Mine's actually a unique situation because it's spelt with an X, but technically pronounced as a K.
Oh, okay.
But I rarely get into it with people. It drives my parents nuts. It's like
so they're like, you're not Alex, you're Alec.
Yeah, it's a third generation, like rural Scottish. Alec is masculine, Alex is feminine.
Oh, really?
Type thing. But it's really funny because it gives me a very interesting view on the people who are like, you know, if they come to the bar and they're like, oh, like, how can you not get my name right? Do you know how difficult it is? I'm like, well, kind of. And also like, did you choose your name? Like, how is it that important to you?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
We understand that I'm talking about you.
So is it safe to assume this is like breaking news on this podcast right now, that most people in this city, in this country that would know of you have been calling you the wrong name for years?
It's very frequent. It's always like a really good litmus test when I join like a new restaurant or a new social group, or I move somewhere. Mm-hmm. You get to find out the people who really take things super seriously.
Okay, guys, we are back. Thanks for the brief reprieve. So we paused for a minute. We are now back, and I asked Alex before we hit record again. One of my main motivations of asking you to come on here was for me to selfishly learn more about the foundation Mind the Bar that you and your partner, sorry, I'm forgetting her name.
Mackenzie Chilton, so you're thinking of,
yes.
For Tohono.
Right.
But it was a conversation that began with Shoel Davidson of Gringo and Dixie's fame.
Yes.
And him, myself, Christina Cottel, and Joey Donnelly, actually in the back room of Clue Club.
Oh, okay.
And it literally just started with, and I mean, you can, your listeners can read about the background of the nuances, but it just started with a discussion of how frustrated Shoel was about the industry, and how it treats and hides things with mental health. And Shoel and I were relatively good friends at the time. We've become since extremely good friends, and he's a relationship that I so much value now in my life. But he kind of started talking about frustrations he had going through, you know, his own mental health battles, and then I talked about mine, and we both were like, well, wait, we're pretty good friends. I mean, like, how did I not know that you were going through that, and how did you not know that?
Right.
Like, how, and we're not really, you know, the chest out, broad shouldered, like, we are definitely supporters in our lives of furthering mental health and being progressive. And if we are of that mindset and we weren't open about it, then
who else isn't?
Exactly. Mm-hmm. So it kind of started with that and just a massive amount of frustration, and how to get through it. And I think the first idea we threw out was, you know, like, let's do like yoga and hikes on a closed Facebook group. And it was like, no, it's got to be something more organized. Mm-hmm. And then Brandon from Pigeon got involved along with a few other people, and he was the one who said, if you're going to do this, you need to do it right. Mm-hmm. Like, this needs to be done as best it can, or else it's going to flounder. Mm-hmm. You need to really set up some pillars for success. So that's when we decided that we were going to do a full government registered not-for-profit surrounding anxiety, addiction, depression, and harassment issues in the hospitality industry.
So cool. And that was how many years ago?
That was, it was the week after the Bell Let's Talk of 2018.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So we're just celebrating a year plus.
Yeah, we're around about, we've had so many different milestones, like that first sit down, getting together, getting a directorship together, you know, getting the legal paperwork in. Around about now last year is when we launched the website and let everybody know kind of what was going on, what we were intending to do, and started kind of taking feedback from the industry and the community about what they needed. Mm-hmm. So we're somewhere in that. I don't know. As time goes on, I don't know when we're going to start setting that anniversary date and celebrating it. But yeah, we're about the year mark.
how does Mind the Bar show up for the industry and the general public in your vision? Like, ideally, what does it look like? How are people interacting with it? Is it something they're interacting with on a daily basis? Is it something that they would attend seminars or conferences once a year? Or if I'm listening to this podcast, and we'll get more into exactly what it is in practice, but if someone really loves what it's all about, how do they interact with what Mind the Bar is, or what in your vision would be that interaction?
So there's a few different, pillars of Mind the Bar that built on, and it's amazing how much it's changed already, just from necessity. And like, we really thought that we would be looking at an uphill battle. We really thought we'd get a lot of naysayers. You guys are just, bartenders and owners and chefs. What do you know? And that wasn't the case at all. I still can't believe how supportive everyone at every level of this industry has been for us. We also thought we'd be kind of nickel and diming our way to our piggy banks, and that definitely hasn't been the case. We received about $70,000 from Altos Tequila to get things really kickstarted,
Which is so cool.
It's still such a surreal thing to say coming out of my mouth. It's been almost a year now, and for a international company to take such a huge risk, being part of that whole thing, we sat in front of people who are very intelligent. And the sad truth is that on a long enough timeline, Mind the Bar is going to have to issue, a notice that somebody within our ranks passed away.
Right.
It's a massive risk for a brand, and for them to overlook that and say that this is important and we're going to jump on board. I cannot voice enough how amazing Altos Tequila is to do this, when they could have picked so many safer things to do.
And that's a big chunk of money, man, from a marketing standpoint and whatever. Like, that's shows a lot of confidence in what you guys are doing, which is great. It must feel great for you guys.
It's amazing. Like I said, it's still, it's still waiting to pinch and wake up.
Yeah, I bet.
Russell Beer has committed to raising $10,000 for us.
Amazing.
So, we didn't imagine that this would be anything, even 6 months ago, after the, Altos Tahona money coming in, we're still trying to catch up. We're working right now with an insurance company to be able to provide much more affordable mental health services to hospitality. So even in our original budgets, when we were talking about, like, it's going to be, $100 a session for this much, we're looking like at drastically reduced rates. Now we're going to be able to do more with our money. So we're still, we still have people coming out of the woodwork who are able to help. We still have people coming to us who are in the industry but have backgrounds in communication and marketing, who are talking like, hey, I used to write grants, application for grants for this amount of money.
So cool.
We're still trying to figure it out, and we want to make sure that we do what's best for the community. I think at the heart of it, we're always going to be a organization that doesn't provide, we liaise. That was one big thing for me. This has been a big part of the conversation in hospitality in recent years, but I'm sick of going to a cocktail or bartending festival and listening to 4 bartenders and a bar manager talk about something that they have no education or background in. When you start getting into health and well-being, especially mental health, that's a very scary place to be. You really need
specialists.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's where Mackenzie comes into play for us. She's our psych advisor. She has a background. She has a master's in psych. She's got a bunch of amazing letters next to her name. She worked in the prison system. She helped write the suicide prevention policy for the government. Like,
wow.
When we looked for somebody who would be the best, we went out and we found the best. And I truly believe that she is the best person for this job. And she's what makes us really unique, because we were looking at what other people were doing, and it was bartenders and chefs just kind of being like, let's go for a run, like
which is cool. But
I always said, social media is kind of something that fell onto my lap in this whole thing, and I just said that we are not going to be the organization that puts a lotus leaf and a Maya Angelou quote online, and somehow that justifies us doing good for the world. We are going to be peer-reviewed, researched evidence. We are going to be presenting things from the Canadian Mental Health Association, World Health Organization. That's the messages we're going to be putting forward. Right. And that was a big part of it. Is there was nothing like this in the world that we know of that had psychologists on board, and that we're kind of, we took the self-aggrandizement out of it. You know, the board of directors and the founders are in the background, and
Right.
we're just making sure that we're taking people in hospitality and getting them to the right people and getting them the right information.
Yeah, just facilitating.
Yeah.
As you articulate that, I'm sitting here listening and I'm thinking about, selfishly, I'm thinking about me and what I'm doing and my why. And the reason I'm bringing this up is I want to dig deeper into yours personally, but my why, like why I have a podcast, why I do consulting, why I have charity dinners. My goal is to put good food into everyone's mouth worldwide. That is a goal of mine, and that's the reason why I want to do so well and make millions of dollars, is to facilitate that goal for the world. Why do you do this? Why not, if I can be so blunt, why not just, you know, run amazing restaurants and bars, make killer cocktails, be a leader in the industry, and, you know, go home after the shift and chill out? Why have you chosen to be such an important linchpin in this movement?
I don't know if chosen is the right word.
Why were you choosing that chose then?
But, you know, I love what I do. I love the 9 to 5 of it. I think that what we do, putting food and drinks in front of people, is one of the best jobs in the world.
For sure.
At the end of the day, I don't know if we're really doing a benefit for society greater. I think that providing a great experience is amazing for people, and I get to be a part of people's weddings and anniversaries and birthdays, and I get shown instant, like, real gratitude. And I think that human connection is so good. But I don't know if we're really changing policy or
Right.
really changing the way the world works. And this is kind of a way for me to provide to the greater good. At the same time, I literally don't know if I could sleep at night knowing that I've gotten so much out of this industry and not been able to give back to it. So, you know, for me, it's a little bit of like cognitive dissonance. I just have this desire to be able to kind of put back into the pot that I've taken so much from. You know, I pour flavored water into people's glasses,
Right.
and it's taken me all over the world to, you know, Michelin-starred restaurants and mountaintops and things that I never could have dreamed that I'd experience. And I just really want to give back to the industry that's provided that, and, you know, make the garden better than I found it, so that the next generation comes along and they have the same opportunities that I've had.
So cool, man. I love that. And it sounds so sincere. Did you, going back to the pinching yourself with the big budget shared from Altos, does again, going back to the guy that used to break up fights way back when, are you pinching yourself as well? Like, you feel like, cause I don't want to pump your tires too much, but like, I feel like you are a massive voice in this space right now. And is there any of like imposter syndrome that you have? Because do you feel like, cause I feel like I'm just a kid from Halifax. Do you still feel like a kid from Winnipeg who now all of a sudden is like doing these things, making these speeches, facilitating change, and taking this industry, I'll say, in a direction where it needs to go? Otherwise there'll be no longevity to the space for people in it and the space as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like, what am I doing here? Like,
when are they going to find me out? Yeah.
You know, I think in most people's hospitality careers, we needed to ride out the first few years as like, just fake it till you make it.
Oh,
like,
100%, dude.
Yeah, just like drop those words on, you know, like, you know, you still see it even in great restaurants. You know, they're like, oh, like what's this, 2014 vintage, like, from there. Oh, it's great. Yeah. It's great.
Trust me, it's great.
Yeah. So I think our culture is just like, yeah, like, just, keep pushing. And I definitely have no clue how I got into any of this. I mean, it's pure luck, really, when it comes down to it. I can trace, the exact moment where my trajectory changed in this industry, and it was going to a tequila seminar that was hosted by Eric Lorenz, the Vancouver tequila Eric Lorenz, not the London Savoy Hotel Eric Lorenz, at the Hotel Georgia. I sat beside Brad Stanton, who at that time was the bar manager for Hawksworth. Mm-hmm. Somebody had just left their program, and at the end of the talk, he just said, you should drop off a resume. And that was it. And then I got to work next to Cooper Tardival for 3 years, and then another year and a half when we opened up Nightingale, and I got to work next to John Smolinski, and Craig Robertson, and all these amazing people. And I had the imposter syndrome then, where it was just like, I remember coming home to my girlfriend at the time and just being like, I like no clue. Like just all these pieces of paper in front of me. Like I don't know where to start. I don't know what's going on here. And I think I've had that through most of my career. Fortunately, I've been able to, find some answers and be able to link up with some amazing people like Mackenzie when it comes to the mental health thing, so that I can help spread their word, because mine isn't really worth the paper it's written on. But yeah, I think that if you feel like you are where you deserve to be, it's at some point then what where are your goals then,
exactly.
So I think that at some point that my therapist would probably say I should really be happy about where I am, but I definitely think that I'm still waiting for the foot to drop.
I feel like that humbleness is such a important piece of a leader, and I look at you again as a leader in this industry, and it's so important to have that. And paraphrasing what you said a bit, like if I'm in a room and I feel like I'm the smartest person in that room, I need to find a different room. And I want to learn. Like I want to learn. And my coach told me years ago, always be a white belt. Like go and learn, like go to seminars, ask questions, read books, like always be a white belt, never be a black belt. And I think that just keeps me in what I'm doing just so humble. And I feel like that humbleness that you're showing as well just serves you so well as a leader. And hopefully people listening to this and the generations that are coming up behind you will carry that on, because it allows for so much growth as opposed to saying, yeah, I know all the time.
Yeah, I think humbleness might be a bad word, but it's just what you attribute to where your goals are.
True. Yeah.
And I think that, I know people in Vancouver who won't hire bartenders who they perceive better than them, because they have this idea that's like, well, you would just be my boss. And I think the sports analogy is perfect where, I've played high level rugby most of my adult life. It's the hang on to the ball and get tackled after 15 yards, or pass the ball and have your team go up on the board. And I think that you want the best people around you to pass the ball to, because at the end of the day, you want to be, drinking after a win rather than drinking when, I had the most possession today. Like
exactly,
we lost, but hey, like I was an all-star.
Yeah. A true, like the team mentality, which I think this industry needs more of, and something that comes up on the show a lot. And I don't want to become kind of like the story that I'm perpetuating, but I'd love to get your take on this in regards to kind of your aspect of the business that you're so knowledgeable on. And that is that I feel like our space is very different from other industries in that we, for some reason, create these organic silos that just occur. And these silos, I feel, hold us back from, like we said, both off air and now on air, these conversations that really do need to be had. And it comes up for me a lot when I sit down with very talented and very successful chefs on the show from all over the world, that there is this mindset of lack and this mindset of I can't share this with you, because if I do, then you'll have the tricks and you'll have all the stuff that I have. And as I sit back and I watch this industry grow and different aspects of this industry grow, I look to something like the craft beer industry being so interesting and so different. I'm not a beer drinker. I'm not a drinker at all. So I'm not one to actually imbibe in that. But what I'm really intrigued by about what the craft brewers are seemingly doing as an outsider is they're doing a hell of a lot of collaboration and a hell of a lot of sharing. And we see the odd pop-up dinners with chefs collaborating, but I don't know that there's a platform for them to truly come together and have those conversations. With the bartending world, do those silos exist, or are you guys like kind of the craft brewers, if we can label them with that stigma, where it's like a free-for-all as far as sharing and community and information? Are there less silos when it comes to the industry, the aspect of the industry that you know so well, or is it similar to what we see in the back of house with chefs?
Well, I think bartending has, our silos around our entire industry. If you look back, bartenders were kind of bartending trade secrets were like magician secrets back in the day.
For
so
sure.
We'd freely share them between each other, but never to the general public. I don't think I've heard that Vancouver has one of the most supportive bartending communities in the world, where everybody collabs, and if something goes wrong or something goes down or a product doesn't show up, we're really quick to remedy that for anybody else and be supportive. I mean, we've got different chat groups about when, you know, health inspector or liquor inspectors in a certain area.
Cool.
We're very much supportive of each other. And I see that internationally too. I hear in certain places, like Toronto would be one where a lot of people I know in Toronto constantly say like, we're so jealous of the sense of community that Vancouver has.
That's cool.
But I think we around the world have a really great sense of community. And I know that I've got people in every major market in the world that I can phone up if somebody else is going there and just be like, hey, can you take care of, you know, so-and-so, they're going to your bar top at Thursday. They want to know where else there is to go, and sharing back and forth. I mean, I'm currently stealing recipes from Dandelion because it closed down. So give me your weird microwave vermouth. And you know, they were the best bar in the world for a few years, and they're so, you know, happy to share with everything. So that's not a problem that I see so much in the bartending world. And I'm fortunate enough to work at a restaurant where I don't see that with the chefs either. Our head chef Ian is every management meeting every week has got a new idea of a new collaboration.
Oh, cool.
How we can push things, how we can do some fun stuff. You know, we did Beast in Portland a few months ago. We just did Canoe from Toronto a couple months ago. I don't think I can announce it because we're doing essentially the exact opposite.
This goes up in 2 weeks.
Yeah, I'll get in trouble with our media
it's too far out.
But we are doing a collaboration coming up with the restaurant in Vancouver that is literally the exact opposite of us, because it's just like, let's go and let's challenge this.
White Spot?
That would be pretty cool. We could do Wagyu ribeye pirate packs.
If you guys don't know, we have listeners from all over the world. We're so blessed. But if you guys don't know what pirate packs are, check them out online. They search as like White Spot pirate packs.
Yeah.
And is it one day a year?
I think it's one day. It's adult pirate pack.
Yeah,
it was just like last week.
Yeah.
Too.
So adults can go in and they can kind of, you know, be whimsical a bit and share in what the kids usually share at White Spot. White Spot is a prominent name in fast food here, and I don't know how long they've been around, but quite a while.
Forever.
Yeah, and it's just like a very whimsical, cool spot if you want to get like a burger or a shake and fries.
Yeah, they still have like I think 1 or 2 locations that are the old school like drive up. They come out and they give you like the tray on the side of the window,
cool.
Which is so nostalgic and awesome.
If you're listening, White Spot, 1, hit us up for a sponsorship, and 2, do not close those locations because we need more stuff like that.
I could definitely do with like a good Triple O's burger right about now.
Yeah, exactly. So you have a cool collaboration coming up with someone that is the complete like antithesis of the concept that you guys currently offer at your restaurant.
Yeah, so we've got Josh and James who are both, you know, industry veterans, and they're so excited to work with as many people as they want to. I mean, we just had Tristan, the head bartender from Patton & Sons. He was down in our basement last week doing a Patton & Sons takeover.
Cool.
Brought a bunch of products from Edinburgh. So anything that they can do that, you know, reshapes the mold and is exciting and fun. And I think at the end of the day, there are people who have restaurants and bars to celebrate food and drink, and there are people who have restaurants and bars to pay the bills. Mm-hmm. And the latter are the ones who fortunately don't survive that much, and just aren't as fun. Mm-hmm. If you do this out of true passion, you know, you can create a concept, but that concept's not available for everything. And you're going to want to do, I know Jenner was talking when he was like, you know, we've got all these ideas and we want to do them. Yeah. And it's really cool when you have a space when you can do them within your own 4 walls, to kind of scratch that creativity itch every now and then. But I'm really blessed to be at Wildebeest, which is a spot that really, really, really treats the passion for hospitality.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's a great spot. It's been around for how many years now?
I think we were just talking about this last week. We're 7 years almost to the day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So Wildebeest in Gastown, great spot. Go check it out if you are local. If you're not and you do come to town, make sure you go check it out and ask for Alec at the bar.
Or Alex or Alan or
Gregory.
Whatever, yeah.
So coming back to Mind the Bar, so we have the support of some major names in the industry. We're looking at now going down the path of getting some insurance companies to help out and facilitate change in that space. Where else do you see this going? How big can Mind the Bar be? Is your vision and the director's vision this becomes a global movement, or right now are you very much feet on the ground, head in the clouds? Like where are you and your team at with it?
Originally we talked about eventually dabbling internationally. Would be, you know, the grandiose, you know, many years from now. But one thing that has become apparent and was especially apparent when we went down to Guadalajara last fall to compete for the $70,000 was the different markets that we would go into are so vastly different when it comes to everything, when it comes to what's affecting hospitality workers, to the medical industries, what they're already provided. You know, we had one conversation with the team from Finland, who are great guys who own a bar called DeLorean in Finland.
Sweet name.
In like a small town too, like not like a big.
Yeah.
They were hilarious. And then this rock star team of women from Chicago, with Laura Kelton from Sportsman Bar, who were pitching a similar idea to us. And the Finnish team was kind of just like listening to us and the Chicago team talk back and forth. Like, and it became apparent when they were like, yeah, we just want people to be able to like get this basic service. And I remember thinking, like, up until that point, how ridiculous I thought it was that if you were about to commit suicide in our community, you can go to a hospital, you can go to an emergency room, and they essentially just put you under hospital care for 24 hours. You don't really get anything beyond that. It's discharged. It makes me so sad, and it's sickening. And talking to the team from Chicago, they don't even get that.
Well, yeah, I mean, completely different there, right?
If you are about to throw yourself off a bridge in Chicago or in the US, and you don't have health care and you want to go to a hospital, you also have the barrier of
paying for it.
And it just really illustrated how different the fight for you know, mental health and mental health services is from place to place. And then the team from Finland kind of like popped in. They were like, why do you guys need any of this?
Right.
And then it became apparent that like they don't need a third party facilitating this, because their government is already so good at doing it that it's not even a problem. So it became very apparent that we're going to focus on, you know, Canadian problems overall. Even province to province to province, we're going to be dealing with, you know, different.
So different. Yeah.
It's going to be like dealing with 12 different, you know, nations as is. So right now we're going to get our ducks in a row with this little pilot in Vancouver and figure out how everything's working here, and then be able to create a toolkit to launch Mind the Bar in other Canadian cities. And then the way that we are going to hopefully spread our word and help around the world is link up with other mental health services that are aimed at hospitality and be able to lend them some of our intelligence, and essentially fly Mackenzie to different places and get her to help with seminar series and stuff like that, and be able to help them build it, you know, under their umbrella, because it would be foolish of us to think that we can solve the problems in different communities that we're not a part of.
Yeah, it's almost like, if I can, it's like consulting on a restaurant in Nova Scotia is not like consulting on a restaurant in New York. Like,
exactly.
Very, very different. It's not just a plug and play thing. You need to be very sensitive to so many different dynamics that are happening. Since you've taken this on, and since you've been far more immersed in this aspect of the industry, meaning mental health, anxiety, addiction, abuse, all of those things, have you found it for yourself to be challenging, tiring, discouraging, depressing, all of those things? And then how do you cope with it personally?
All of those things. There have been a few instances that, you know, just come out of left field. It's been a really interesting look at what people in the world of mental health services have to put up with, where you just can get exhausted and overwhelmed. And, you know, I've been prepped as best as I can from our team. But there have been a couple of, you know, 3 a.m., 4 a.m. Facebook messages that have hit our page that are, you know, just like straight 911 calls.
Wow.
I've found myself, and like I said, our job is never to be able to treat or
you're not the doctors. Yeah.
But there have been a few times that, you know, people have just been like, hey, I kind of want to talk, or I want to hang out. And it's been very vague, and you kind of pick up that something's going on, and you're not going to say no. So you show up, and, you know, twice I can think of things were much worse than I knew how to handle, or, you know, was led to believe would happen. So there's been a couple of like crying on curbs. There's been a couple of dealing with police for missing persons report, ambulance for overdose. And it, you know, I spent 5 years of my life with someone who was a mental health professional. She dealt with the Housing First Initiative, had a master's, was just an absolute superhero. And it gives me so much more respect to what she was able to put up with, knowing that she had to come home and live a regular life, because I couldn't do it if this was my day to day. The people who are, helping the people on the streets and the frontline workers are so devalued in the society, and they need to be supported way more, because I think if the general public had a small sliver of a taste of what they put up with, they would realize that these are the superheroes doing,
oh my God, yeah,
the tough work day to day.
That is the best word to describe them, superheroes. I have a few friends that are firefighters locally and paramedics, and I have a few buddies that are cops and RCMP officers, and what they see and deal with is just, it's crazy.
It's obscene. And then you talk to them about staffing, and they've always lost a large portion of their staff to, he's on personal leave or she's on personal leave,
right?
Because people can't take it, and then it's overworking them. And we really need to support those systems a lot more, I personally feel.
Yeah. Do you feel like what you are creating with Mind the Bar and what you're learning can be applied to other industries as well? Like, it's not just exclusive to this industry, or are you really thinking like, no, this is very specific to our space? Or can this be shared with other industries and be like, hey guys, just so you know, this is what we're learning right now with our segment of the population. Perhaps it would apply to police officers. Perhaps it would apply to paramedics, firefighters, etc.
I think it would be very like sunshine and rainbows of me to say that we're going to be able to change other communities. I don't know if we're even going to be able to change ours. So that would be, I don't think so. I think from like just like a sharing of a data piece. Do you know what I mean? Like, are there findings that you think could be valuable to other segments of this population? I mean, I think what would be amazing is, with the insurance company that we're working for, we're going to be able to build small statistics on what we're dealing with. And they're not going to be specific because of privacy laws, but we are going to see that, people who, are in the system as a chef who is female, under 35, out of the 100 that we've put through it, they have leaned towards more depression versus more anxiety versus more issues. So we might be able to, at one point hook up with a study that, that helps the greater good in that way. But I think that, the reason that we started Mind the Bar is because there are specific problems in hospitality. From my own personal experience, when I started to look for and see a counselor, and they go through their checklist before they really get to know you, and sleep is always, kind of at the top of that checklist. And they're like, well, how do you sleep? And it's like, well, pretty terribly.
Yeah.
And they're just like, well, you should get to bed earlier. It's like, well,
I can't.
Exactly. Like I'm home at 1. Like I get that 95% of the population, this is an easy fix, but it's not for us. And then, you talk about if you have addiction issues, and they're like, well, maybe try staying away from alcohol. It's like, well, I can't. Like it's right there. It's in my face every day. I can maybe not drink it, but to stay away from it completely is
not feasible.
Is impossible.
Yeah.
So we just realized that there were very, unique barriers set up that applied to people in this industry. And I have said about Mind the Bar, I don't want to speak for the organization itself or the rest of the directors, but I've said from day one that this is a hospitality industry initiative. It is not a mental health initiative.
Right. Okay.
And I think to think beyond that would be failing the people that we really set out to help originally.
Changing speeds a bit, looking at something like sobriety and people living a dry lifestyle, I think it's coming up more and more. I don't know if it's just because of the social circle that I'm in, being a non-drinker myself, so I kind of am in that segment of the population. But I think it was a while ago, I read an article on Eater, and Sean Brock and a few chefs had gotten together, and they were then putting on this dry dinner event. Do you feel, or have you seen a change in the industry and some of the people that are more prominent in this space taking a stance and either like announcing their sobriety, announcing their dry lifestyles? Do you feel like liquor and alcohol now is being treated differently because of all these years of abuse, because of, rest in peace, people like Anthony Bourdain going down the path that he went down? Are people now more likely to choose a sober lifestyle because of the climate?
I like to think so, but one thing that personally, I'm going to choose my words very carefully here. One thing that I personally notice about this is it's very easy for someone like Sean Brock to take a stance and say I'm not drinking, and maintain the respect of all his peers. Same with the team from Joe Beef and everybody else that we've seen that is, a Michelin level restaurant. It's very easy for those people to step up and say, I'm not doing this. There's no fear. They've made it.
Right.
I don't know, but I do hope that has a trickle down effect. But I'm slightly worried that it won't. I will say that, in my rare praise for social media, I think that the posts that are about sobriety that are a little self-aggrandizing, at least, might have a ripple effect that other people will take on it. So it's definitely not something I'm opposed to. I want to see more of it because the more we see it, the more people are going to think it's acceptable. But I'm uncertain as of yet if we're going to see a massive change within the culture of the community, because I don't think that this is a binary issue between drinking and not drinking.
Right.
It's about, it's one step further of, why are you drinking so
Yeah,
much?
it's the choice behind it. Yeah.
You're taking away the self-medication, and oftentimes I'd imagine something else slides in that place, or they're not able to juggle their day to day, or they pull out of the industry completely. I think the focus really needs to be on is, what's the catalyst that causes the drinking.
Right. Have you seen a change though, just in regards to say working at Wildebeest and doing the work that you do and have been all over the world? Have you seen kind of general public, there been a switch there? Are you serving more sparkling water and kombucha and mocktails now than you were 5 years ago? Is the general public changing their perception of a dry lifestyle?
That's a really good question. I would say anecdotally, just thinking about it off the top of my head, not really. I think that people not drinking, at least in my lifetime in the hospitality industry, has always been linked to weight loss.
Okay. It's almost summer, so they got to get,
So I think the industry is finding amazing ways to profit more off those people. And I think it's awesome that we're, I don't think that there's a restaurant that I would put in the top 10 in the city that doesn't have a good mocktail program, and that their bar team isn't being challenged by taking away their most important palette and being able to paint with different colors, which is really cool. I do definitely notice, however, when a guest offers me something to drink and I turn it down, there's no longer the, oh, come on.
Like, oh, come on, dude, have a shot.
It seems like it's now
understood,
a one sentence conversation of like, oh, no, thank you.
Right.
Whereas before it was like, oh, you know what, I'm not drinking tonight. And they'd be like, oh, why is your boss looking? Like, it's no problem. Like, just do it. I was here last week. I did that. I used to be a bartender. Right. And it used to be a fight. But that dialogue's definitely lessened. I think people are a lot more in tune with the fact that we are professionals and we don't need to drink every night. However, I do drink often behind a shift, not socially, but I'll taste things as I go. You'll often see me with a new spirit or a new wine, nosing it, tasting it as the night goes on, see how it develops. But I think that, that's the biggest change from the general public is when you say no, they're like, oh, cool, that's totally acceptable. I don't think you need to do the idea of needing to do a shot with a bartender is no longer, directly connected with the bartender liking you. And I mean, I'm saying this from a place of privilege where I work at Wildebeest. I'm not at a nightclub, pouring shots and cracking beers anymore. But I think that's the biggest thing from public perception. And Mind the Bar, we have a pineapple pin that we wear. It's a little
so
fundraiser
cool.
that we have. And whenever anybody asks about it, they're always super supportive and into it. Whereas I feel like if I was to wear that, 10 or 15 years ago, you just get the like, what
are you doing, dude?
What are you like? What's your problem? You just make food. Like, how stressful could this be?
Right.
I think there's just an understanding that that there are humans serving your food and drink now that didn't exist before.
Have you now, coming back a bit, have you now been gifted this sense of awareness of what's happening around you with your staff and with people in the industry? Meaning, can you now pick up on things that you maybe didn't pick up on 5 years ago, 3 years ago, 10 years ago of like, I think that's a sign, and kind of catching it before it is a Facebook message to Mind the Bar or a phone call to a friend, or we hope not, but like a bridge incident or the cops being involved or an ambulance being involved? Are you now a little bit more aware when you're on shift or off shift of characteristics to be looking for, or words or body language? Like, is that on your radar now more so than ever?
I would say 100% not. I think that I'm still so ill-equipped to make those decisions and see those signals. What I have been doing, and one thing that I think that we can do in general as a society and within the hospitality industry, is just choose your words carefully. You know, make sure that you're presenting yourself as an open door, because since this has started, I've, you know, through what people like Mackenzie have been able to teach us in Mind the Bar, being able to put that in practice. And I have had people approach me who I know would have never approached me before, and just been like, I know that it's safe to talk to you. And I think that's the important thing. I don't think that we should be necessarily scanning the room looking for the problem, but I do think that we should be letting everybody know that, you know, our doors are always open. I'll always pick up the phone, and I'll always be there if you need anything. And I think it's really also important to let people know that, like, you know, if you've gone through some shit, let them know that you've gone through some shit, and be honest. You know, I've had people that have worked under me, and I've come into work and they've just asked how my day was, and I've just been like, I have been in bed all day today. My anxiety is 9 out of 10. It's a rough go. And I think that when people hear you talk about that nonchalantly and matter-of-factly, just like you would, I mean, I always equate it to a physical injury. Just like, you know, if you were to walk into work and you're like, I slept on my neck weird last night, my back's killing me, you know, you don't need to gripe about it, but I think just presenting it to people, letting them know where you're at, I think that opens the door a lot for people to come and say the same thing to you. And I think it can be very, very helpful when, you know, a junior staff member near the end of the night turns around and just says, like, hey, if there's any way that I can get off first, because I'm kind of struggling, it's like, yeah, that's no problem. No one's going to suffer for that. You can take a night off. You definitely need it. If there's anything else you need, let me know. And I think that that's the important lesson that I've taken away from this, is at least just being able to present that I'm open for that conversation.
Creating that space.
Yeah. I don't think without, you know, years of dedicated research and professional schooling, that I don't think anybody's really able to, you know, diagnose somebody from the corner of a room. Just shoot and just start pointing all my staff. depression, anxiety.
Yeah. I don't think it's maybe quite that black and white, but I just wondered if, like, again, you've been having more conversations about this over the past few months, year. I just wondered if it was more, like I said, kind of on your radar a bit. Be like, oh, okay, I never thought of it that way, but now it makes sense looking back. I guess Susie did seem a little bit like this.
Yeah. I mean, there's also, you know, I quickly learned that, you know, I came out of the gate pretty hard with this whole thing, and like wanted to be the righteous avenger but you realize that it's pretty exhausting. And I've learned as best as I can to turn it off until it needs to be turned on. I think that, you know, walking around just with kind of the proverbial gun on the holster all day is just going to leave you exhausted. And it's also just going to be really depressing for you, thinking that every time somebody closes a drawer too hard or drops a knife or takes a deep sigh is suffering. And then you need to be in, like, you know, from Clark Kent to Superman in 2 seconds mode. I think that just the important thing is leaving the conversation open for anybody to come to your door and have.
How do you do it? How do you, after how many years, 20 years you've been in the space?
I would have had my first bartending shift almost 20 years ago. I think it'll be like 20 years ago in October. Okay.
So over the 20 years, how have you developed or honed or changed your recharge formula? And what I mean by that is this industry can be so thankless. As you mentioned, lack of sleep is a big thing. Exposure to alcohol is a big thing. Our diets aren't the best when we're working 4 or 5 days in a row. So when you are done work and when you're able to relax and able to have a sigh of relief, what then carries out for you so that you can show up the next day and do it all over again? What are you doing? Or is it a book? Is it music? Is it food you're ingesting? Is it sleep? What is your personal recharge formula that someone could maybe take and use as their own?
I think it's definitely changed over the years. I think that as you get older, you start losing things. When I was younger, I would tell you that it's the fact that I get to play rugby. Right. But I'm not as competitive at that anymore. I'm not focused on that 4 days plus a week. I'm not, I'm not playing as high a level, so it's kind of a little bit more fun. And for a while, the party life kind of helps you wake up the next day and do it, So you get off work, you go drink a bunch, stay up all night, maybe play a round of golf when the golf course opens at 5 a.m, which was definitely my habit when I was working nightclubs. Like I'd go to bed at 7 a.m. because I was wide awake, and you can get your early morning discount at the public courses and play around. But now, especially with my own personal mental health journey over the past 2 years, really paying attention to how I feel at certain times and looking at the causes of that. Listening to podcasts has become a big thing.
Okay. Can we shout out some?
Oh, just like there's a ton. What do I listen to a lot? I mean, hospitality ones, like I love Eric Castro's one. He's killing it with shoot, I'm terrible at
that's right, we'll look it up.
Names.
We'll put it in the show notes.
Bartender at Large.
Okay.
That one is great. There's gastronomy, there's Sporkful. I love anything that has to do with food and drink history. There's a great podcast called Myths and Legends.
Okay.
If I can't get to sleep, I put that one on.
Oh, okay.
It's just a bunch of like, historically significant myths, like Arthurian legends, Nordic myths.
Oh, very cool.
But the guy's got a really great voice, and it's really well done.
That helps, yeah.
I know a ton of like the first 3/4 of a bunch of myths, and then I'm out.
And then you're out. That's good.
But over the past few years, where I used to turn to music to kind of relax, podcasts have kind of taken over, which, is bittersweet. I love music, but it doesn't relax me the way it used to.
Right.
Taking certain natural ingredients and going for long walks in the woods has been something that I've recently done. Just kind of like relax and zone out. That's a big one for me. And then, you said like food, like I bike to work every day. I'm very active. I eat extremely well. And I just think that, it's a Jim Carrey quote that pops up on the internet recently, but it's just like, if you're not doing those things to take care of your body, you're not giving yourself the best fighting chance against things like anxiety and depression or stress. I mean, this doesn't have to be, you don't have to be like a level 8, 9, and 10 on the scale. It's just, you're going to wake up feeling better if you've had real legitimate food versus if you're going to McDonald's or A&W or Burger King or whatever 24-hour restaurant is right next to your bar every night of the week. So it's just, for me, it's just been finding what works and what doesn't work, and focusing on what does work and doing less of what doesn't work, and being able to stop and experience some gratitude every now and then. Chill out on one of our amazing beaches here in Vancouver, watch a sunset, take time to yourself. But yeah, whatever I can do that I find, I just try to fill my day up with that, and filling a day up kind of just makes it so I can't do any of the stuff that would be negative. Yeah,
good point. I'm intrigued by such a silly question, but something I think would add good context for those that have never attended bar, that are listening, or have no idea. Food on shift is always a challenging thing because you're so on. And going back again, Jenner talked about shoving a granola bar into his face when he was running downstairs to change a keg. That was kind of his meal and his reality. What is your like trick when you're on shift? If you're like head down for 4 hours, 6 hours, but your body needs some sort of fuel, what are you doing?
I've got my 4 o'clock smoothie.
Okay.
And my 8 o'clock smoothie.
Can you tell us what's in it?
My 4 o'clock smoothie is flaxseed, orange, mango, yogurt, honey.
Okay.
And then my 8 o'clock smoothie is banana, maca, a little bit of hemp protein powder. What else is in that guy? Dates.
Okay.
Almond butter.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's something else. Oh, and coconut water.
Amazing. So you're just on shift, you find a spot and go crush that at 4 and crush it at 8.
Take a couple of big sips, probably get a brain freeze, but it gets me through. And then I always have a small little like wrap of, like hummus, feta, roasted red peppers.
Right.
That's either my after shift snack, or if, I need more calories, I'll grab it as I'm running downstairs to grab something and take 3 bites. And then the next time I got to go downstairs, take 3 bites. But yeah, you definitely need to find your tricks. And I've seen bartenders with, I remember you used to be able to work, nightclubs, and you'd start at 6 and you'd be there till 4 and you'd survive on Red Bull and
ice cubes,
shots of sourpuss and be fine. But yeah,
I don't know, maybe on the outside you look fine, but inside was just rotting away from all that sugar.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate you sharing that, just because it adds more context, I think, to people that when we're going into these spaces, into these busy restaurants and bars, like these are, like you said a few times, these are human beings, and human beings biologically, we need sustenance, we need food, and these people can't just work consistently. So there has to be a creative way, and because of who you are and because most people that are in this industry, you're not going to just start chewing on a sandwich in front of a guest. So you find a way to make it work and facilitate that environment for your guest. But hey, you need to do it. That's something that I'm adamant on with the charity pop-up dinners that I do, is like I make sure everyone that's volunteering like is consistently drinking water. We do a pre-shift meal.
Water's
all that
the
stuff.
biggest one.
Dude, water is so key.
Yeah. And work with a team. Like the one thing I love about Wildebeest is as soon as someone goes to get water, they'll start saying to anybody around them, like, have you drank what? Like,
yeah, when's last time you had water?
You gotta have everybody's back, you know?
Yeah.
It's really, I'm so picky with my water. When I work our basement, we don't have filtered water down there.
Oh, okay.
Like, I'm so bad. I'll do like an entire shift.
You only drink bougie water?
Yeah. I want the good filtered stuff. It comes out cold. We have the best water in the world here, and you're saying no to it. Yeah. But, it's super, super, super important. And I know people that'll roll into work with, like 2-liter jugs with lines marked on them.
Like times.
By 6 o'clock, I need to be here by 8 o'clock. And I think you just need to figure out whatever works for you. But, Shoel, the president for Mind the Bar, says it all the time. Like, we put so much effort into taking care of our guests, we always forget to take care of ourselves. Totally. And you need to take care of yourself, or in a couple of years or a couple of months or a couple of weeks, you're not going to be able to take care of that guest.
Yeah, it's something I heard when I became a new parent, and it's so simple. We hear it all the time. For those of us that are lucky enough to travel, whether locally or abroad, when you get onto a plane, they tell you that if you're traveling with an infant and the air mask comes down, you put yours on first, because you're no good to your son or daughter if you're not breathing. And I think that's such an important thing and poignant point when it comes to being a parent, but also being someone in this industry that's facilitating this evening for your guests. Like, you need to take care of you first. Otherwise, you won't be able to do jack squat.
100%. You gotta fly that plane back to home base before you can be labeled a hero.
Yeah, exactly. So true. So true. I want to respect your time, but I do have a few more questions before I officially let you go. I would be remiss not to ask, if people are listening and they are in our beautiful country of Canada and they are members of the hospitality industry, how best they reach out to Mind the Bar. I know you mentioned Facebook page. I'm assuming that's probably a big pull for you in regards to interactions. Yeah. How else can they engage with you and the team, whether on a personal level or just holistically with Mind the Bar?
Facebook, Instagram, and our website. So we are at Mind the Bar Canada for Instagram. We are mindthebar.com. I really should know this.
That's all right. We'll put it in the show notes if it's not right.
Online, and then Facebook, Mind the Bar. And you can find me online as Black Tending. Yeah. Very, very clever. Bartending, but my last name.
I like it.
And we will be doing, we did Mind the Bar Talks a couple of months ago. You'll see more Mind the Bar Talks with a combination of mental health professionals as well as industry icons.
Cool.
Having round panel discussions. We had a great one. Juno Kim was on it.
Oh, amazing.
A couple of months ago, and he's been really open lately. And Juno's just one of the nicest people that I've had the pleasure to meet. But along with mental health professionals to kind of guide and lend credibility to what he's saying. So keep an eye out for that. We will be having more fundraisers coming in the coming months, so keep your eyes peeled for that. We've got a whole event subcommittee now. So
awesome.
It's a double-edged sword, because I don't really know exactly what they're thinking long term. I got some ideas, but it's just a way to lessen the load of everyone on the board of directors to now kind of have formal roles. So is the best idea starting up? Is the best idea for someone to join the mailing list to keep in the loop on that stuff, or just kind of watch social to see what's going on? Keep your eyes on social right now. Okay. We're like I said, we're still working with insurance companies to get everything off the ground. Right. And we're it seems like we're really slow moving, and it feels like that at times, but when we are dealing with having a not-for-profit on mental health, and there's so many legalities, we're just being very, very cautious to not shoot ourselves in the foot, and we want to make sure that we set up the right foundation. And at the end of the day, none of us has ever done this before. Exactly. And our lawyers consistently come back and being like, why are you giving it? Our problem is actually we're giving the lawyers too much.
Oh, really?
right now, and they're like, we don't need all of that. And we're like, we just kind of thought we'd just give you everything. So we're still trying to work it out as we go and make sure that we're set up for success.
Well, I appreciate you guys being so on top of it and taking it so seriously, because it is only going to benefit from the time that you're taking to nurture it and grow it before you officially put it out there. But yeah, please do interact with Mind the Bar guys if you are dealing with any sort of anxiety or depression or just feeling like you need someone to talk to. Please do reach out to Mind the Bar. But like I said before, I do let Alec go officially. I have 2 questions for him that I ask every single guest, and I'm going to put him on the spot, but I feel like he'll be able to bob and weave through these 2 questions. The first one I have for you, sir, is this podcast is called the Half a Dozen Hospitality Podcast. So I have for you the half a dozen have-tos, meaning, stay with me here, I need from you 1 to 6. You can do 1 or you can do 3 or you can do 6 of things you've experienced in your life that you feel like our listeners have to experience, meaning a trip you've taken, a bottle of 2014 wine you've drank, whatever it may be, a piece of art you've looked at, an album you've purchased, a movie you've seen. What would be 1 to half a dozen of your Alec have-tos?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, I mean, I think one of the biggest one is learn to let go. I think for me, for the past 6 or 7 years, that's been the biggest change in my life. Is I've realized how to cut things loose, whether it be activities or people, or especially people who you've loved. I think that play the role of the gambler, know when to walk away. Has been immensely important to my life. Find something you love and do all of it.
Okay.
Don't half-ass the good stuff. Mm-hmm. Save the half-assing for the stuff that you don't like,
right? Or
just don't do it at all. Experience a moment of gratitude, however that comes. Mm-hmm. Overwhelming gratitude is so unique. And I think for me, I had, a moment of, being in Nicaragua, and they've got this really cool thing where you get to board down a mountain.
Oh, cool.
If anyone's done this, it's like CNN's number 1 or number 2 best activity to do in the world.
Like board, like snowboard?
You're sitting down on it, and so you're kind of like Christmas Vacation. Chevy Chase, whipping down this thing. It's awesome. Yeah. But the hike up to the mountain at the beginning, you can see the full archipelago of all the volcanic mountains.
Beautiful.
In Nicaragua, and just it just became overwhelmed with the sense of like, I shouldn't be here, but I am so glad.
Pinch me kind of thing.
To be here. Yeah. I think that it just really shows the scale of human emotion. If you know what absolute gratitude is, like know what your 10 is, mm-hmm. and keep trying to get it.
How long ago was that? Sorry.
That was 2 years ago,
okay.
2 or 3 years ago.
Awesome.
Kevin Brownlee and I went down to Nicaragua to check out some of the conditions in the sugarcane fields down there, and I got to do that, which was insane.
Cool.
Play a team sport. Please play a team sport.
Yes, shout out team sports.
It every time I'm in a locker room, I'm just like, you guys never, like, you can tell the messy people, like, you did not have 26 inches.
Yeah.
And that's it. But also just, knowing that the score on the board is more important than personal statistics and everything else. I like to ask when I'm interviewing people, like, tell me about the team sports you played growing up. Nothing against individual sports, but I think that the lessons gained while participating in sports are invaluable in life.
Yeah.
And I truly believe that there is no age too old to pick up.
God, no.
And do that.
Yeah. I know someone who's become a good friend of mine who's 46. I won't say who she is or what sport she's playing now, but she just picked it up. I think that's so admirable.
Yeah. If Jenner's step grandfather can bike at like 100 years old.
Was he like 185 years old?
Then no one else has any excuse.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's about all that comes to mind right now.
Cool.
You know what? Actually, find a mentor.
Yes, man, 100%. I'll let you kind of go, and I'll tell you why I'm so down with that one. Go ahead.
I've been fortunate that I've had some amazing mentors in my life, there's a really great book if you're a sports fan, if you're a football fan, or you're just a fan of leadership, called The Score Takes Care of Itself. It's the semi-auto biography of Bill Walsh, the guy who invented the West Coast offense.
Yeah.
But he said something that stuck with me for my entire life in that book, and that was, the mentor doesn't have to agree to be the mentor.
Yeah.
Find people to look up to, and cherish that, because at the end of the day, you know, we can only see as far as the shoulders we stand on, and you want to stand on the tallest shoulders that you can find. So I think that's immensely important. And I've been so fortunate to have some of the best people in this industry be my mentors.
Yeah. I think to Bill Walsh's point, like I've got some mentors that have been dead for hundreds of years. Right. And just looking at what they've done and what they said and how they live their lives, it's just, we can learn so much from mentors. And back to my point earlier about being a white belt, like just be thirsty for learning, and just be thirsty for saying, like, I don't know, please help and please show. So I think that's really beautiful. The last question I have for you then, sir, is the same idea, same concept ish, but it is the half a dozen haven't yet. So I need from you 1 to 6 items of things that you've yet to experience in your life, for lack of a better term, like a bucket list, if you will. If you feel like you've already done it all, it sounds like you've seen and done a lot of things. But if there's anything else that you feel is kind of, you know, sticking out for you that you still want to cross off that list, what are those things? Share it with myself and listeners.
I definitely love to learn another language.
Okay. How many do you know right now?
I know like 1 and change. Like I can speak like
enough
Spanish
to
get
too,
like a beer or a margarita.
Yeah,
exactly. In like Oaxaca. And I know I was really good at French growing up, but then I just never followed through on it.
Yeah.
But I'd like to go back to that. I'd like to learn to take time to myself before it's too late.
Yes.
You know, I'm really good at focusing on my own physical and mental health when the needle's in the red.
Right.
I'd like to learn to recognize when that red's about to happen.
Okay. Like amber-ish area. Yeah.
I'd love to experience, this has been a pipe dream of mine for years, but just time alone in the wilderness for a prolonged period. I grew up as a Cub and Boy Scout.
Okay.
And I really miss like starting a fire from scratch.
Yeah.
And not having anything digital or hearing any engines.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd like to do that for a prolonged period of time. If I ever get
time
to do it. I don't know if you've picked up on this, but I've got a lot of free time kicking around, Brad. So.
Yeah, it's super chill. What would be, when you say prolonged, are you talking like we're not going to see you for like 4 years and you got a big beard when we see you next? Or are you talking like 10 days?
No, yeah, it doesn't have to be like into the wild. But
right,
you know, like,
where you're living in some abandoned bus or something.
At least a few weeks.
A few weeks?
Yeah.
Cool. And is it just like you, a big backpack and some freeze-dried food?
Yeah, you know, a fishing rod and, you know, catch and take what you can, and probably an emergency telephone, because at some point you're
going to trip somewhere and sprain an ankle or something.
But I think that you know, if you haven't experienced, you know, a long canoe ride or a portage or you know, pitching a tent and you know, and doing basic survival skills, you know, seeing where this whole thing started from and how difficult it is to do a day-to-day when you're in charge of everything. If you haven't experienced that, I think you should, because it really helps you appreciate when somebody at 1 o'clock in the morning is willing to dress, cook, and serve you food with a smile on their face for $13 a plate. Yeah.
Good God. Yeah. Any other haven't yet?
I probably could go on forever, you know, but write a book.
Oh yeah,
I would love to. That's one thing that
fiction, nonfiction,
something about bartending.
Okay,
that's something that wasn't available 20 years ago when I started in this industry.
Yeah.
And now we've just got this whole other way to communicate with our community that I think is so awesome and inspiring. I think it's ridiculous that the general public thinks it's interesting.
Yeah.
Because it's just flavored sugar water, but
they love it.
Yeah, they do. Writing is something that I enjoy. I'm not great at. I've put a couple of articles out there, but that's definitely something that's on my list of things that I would really like to do.
Like a Kitchen Confidential style, or like setting the table, Danny Meyer?
Yeah, I don't think my life's interesting enough to do like Anthony Bourdain, and I don't think I know enough for Danny Meyer, but you know, maybe I could collab on a little something.
Yeah.
But yeah, it doesn't really have a solid direction.
Just
and
something.
That's the great part about the industry now is your life in the industry isn't over when you're 40 anymore.
Yeah,
you can get some longevity out of it. So, but at some point along the line, it would be pretty cool to see, you know, where my my book ends up in, you know, the Dewey Decimal System in a library someplace.
The Dewey Decimal System. I think that's a great spot to end it. I haven't heard that since, I think, probably grade 6. But in all seriousness, before I let you go officially, I do want to say thank you so much for coming on to the podcast. It means a lot to me that you would be so kind donating your time, because I'm a big believer, and I say it on the show ad nauseum, the most valuable thing that you and I do have is our time. So I appreciate you sharing yours this afternoon with me and the listeners. And I want to say thank you so much for giving so much of yourself back to this industry. And you've said earlier that you feel like it's given you so much, but what you're doing is so thankless and so selfless, pardon me, and others will benefit from the work that you're doing. So thank you so much for moving the dirt in this space that needs to be moved, and making way for other people. So I'll be more than happy to support you and fly your flag, as well as mind the bar as you guys move forward. So please do reach out anytime. We can help with anything to help get the message out. So thank you again for your time.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for being such a vocal supporter.
Yeah, man, my absolute pleasure. Thank you guys for tuning in as you do week after week. I truly do appreciate you. If you guys are out there and you are suffering in any way, shape, or form, please do reach out. There are people that care. If you are not in Canada, please find resources. And you know what? This guy's traveled around a lot of places. He can probably put you in touch with people probably in your own city that he would know. I don't want to put words into your mouth. You probably know someone in Finland or in Chicago, or
I know a few people, but you know, there's a ton of people out there who are willing to help. But at the end of the day, don't be shy, don't be afraid, and don't be afraid to go big, because I think that a lot of people are daunted by the idea of dealing with a professional, and opening up to a professional is, you know, once you do it, you realize why they're a professional. Yeah, man. Yeah. Shout out counselors and therapists. You guys are amazing. Okay, guys, that is it. We'll see you next week for a brand new episode. You know what to do. Until then, be good and do good. That's it, man. We did it. Thank you very much. Thanks, bud. You crushed it.